This is day 4 of the January 96 7-day retreat in Springwater. Yesterday in a group meeting, of which I do not remember the beginning, what led up to someone saying, in sitting here, the sound of the airplane is outside and I am inside. There is a definite separation. So, with an airplane coming in handy, or eerie, how is it in listening? May vary from one person to another, from one time to another for each person. Maybe at times there not being any sense of division. But as we were talking in that meeting, what was expressed in all straightforwardness, without any pretenses, was, I'm here, and there's a deep conviction that I am separate. And that I am this body, which is obviously separate from the airplane, from other bodies, from the chair, from the floor. So what are we talking about when we refer to this me, the self? Which proclaims it is my body, which is convinced or says I am convinced that I am here and the plane is there. There's no arguing about the fact that there is a presence of many different bodies, and trees, and stars, and deer, snowflakes, tables, and a microphone. One could say, well, that already is all thought, and in looking right now, in talking about it and imaging the different bodies, the stars, the airplane, the mats on this floor, it does exist in imagination, doesn't it? In thinking about it. We're not arguing that there's more than imagination to this. This is a palpitating whole, with breath and heartbeat and blood circulation, metabolism, digestion, elimination, all dependent on the intake of nourishment and water. Without that, this palpitating body would very quickly die and decompose. So we're not arguing about a temporary reality of this structure here, which we call my body. What we're interested in, at least I'm interested in, and a lot of people are joining in that, is what is the power of this deep conviction that there is an owner of this, a me who possesses this body, and not just this body, but zillions of ideas about itself, all more or less ordered into what we've called the story of my life, my identity. This body is me. This means, in the particular words we use, identification with the body. Taking that body, this body, into a network of ideas and images about what I am. And as we have gone through over the last 4 days, the physical accompaniment in terms of good feelings or bad feelings, high or low energies, in connection with how thought runs about myself and my body, this body. One may delight in the thought that one has a healthy body, a good-looking body, a young body, or get dismayed over years that this body is aging, which means identification with this body does not always bring happy feelings, but can bring fearful or sad, unhappy feelings. What will happen to me as I get older and older? I'm not expressing a fear that exists here. I don't have that fear, not at this time. But it is expressed very frequently. Fear of aging. An upset in this identity with my body. Which I don't want, or thought doesn't want to be the way it is changing. What it is manifesting in terms of less capacity, more illness, creaky joints. But the body is not the only thing that is part of this identification network. Not just this body and maybe a denial of the true state of this body and a remembrance of earlier days and identifying with that body. That's not the whole story of identification. I don't have to list it all. A day or a retreat wouldn't be enough time to list all the identities that are part of this network of me-ness. My job, my profession, my faculties, abilities, my background, my social status, my money, my friends, what I belong to. We've gone through it many times, but there are always some people here for the first time who may not have heard this. This is why these things are said. Even though one may have heard it a lot of times. No one has heard it more often than I myself am talking about it. And yet it's possible to every time see it freshly. How easy it is to identify with my group, my meditation center, my country, 'tis of thee. Maybe this not applies to people here, although these things have to be put to the test. whether identification is there or not, and that there is a reality to this identification, that this is really me, my body, my abilities, my social status, or my rejection of social status. It can also be a strong identity. All of this networking of identities contributing to this deep conviction that there is a separate me living in this body or part of this body. And yesterday in the meeting, the person who was bringing this up said, well, I would like to see this me. How can I see it, if I remember correctly? I've never said this yet, but in this retreat, I do not remember what people say verbatim. I have to recreate it here, which doesn't mean the person was misunderstood at the time that they were speaking. So, what I remember the person said was, I like to see this me. How can I see it so I can really get, well, I don't know what was said. I want to see this. How can I do it? And we all would like to do it, to be able to do it, to see it directly, if this would free us from it, at least at a moment that we want to be free of it. There are such ideas in the mind, nurtured by a lot of spiritual training, traditions, that to be free of the ego is freedom. True freedom. So coming back to how to come in touch with that. And if there is some energy gathering in looking, listening, what we also call awareness, then at this moment there is nothing to see, because a true awareness, this moment does not come out of any identity or network of meanness. It doesn't come out of that. So at this moment of looking, there's maybe the airplane or an itch, the breathing, or people talking, but where is the me in that? It isn't visible. It's in abeyance. Quiet, at rest. The energy is here in the looking and listening, not in the identifying with me and my problems or my abilities. But usually this awareness, this energy gathered in here, looking and questioning, very quickly travels back into the network of what I am, how I want to be seen, how I want to look to myself and others, my security in being respected, loved, well talked about. And then it can become apparent at a moment of hurt if I'm not acknowledged, people slight one, put one down, insult. Then what is it that is hurting? What is it that is aching? Withdrawing or attacking, defending? What is that? At that moment, can there be attention dawning? Something is happening here that may have to do with this me that I've wanted to see, wanted to come in touch with this network of remembering and thinking and disposing oneself in thought and imagery through memory and anticipation. It's happening all the time. Somebody says something. Is there a felt contraction in defensiveness, self-protection? And sort of retaliating in one way or another. One feels criticized or put down, and so automatically doesn't take any deliberation. It's so automatic to put the other person down, put them in their place. And at this moment, as this is going on with palpable physical symptoms, maybe stronger heartbeat, more heat generated, maybe throat constricted, senses seem to close down. Sometimes they shut down. One can't see anything. One is so angry or so hurt. Can it be due to talking about this time and time again, discussing it, dialoguing about it? At such a moment, can a wondering begin to sprout? What is happening here? What am I defending? What is it that is getting hurt? Without drawing immediately on memory to give explanations, causes, which is our usual way of dealing with our problems. To explain, to look for causes, and to assign guilt or blame, mostly to others, but also to ourselves. Can there be a pausing in wondering what is going on and allow some energy to gather in just wondering and pausing and attending to all the stuff that's going on within the reactiveness, the words that form or have already been spoken, the physical excitement, mobilization of energies to defend or to attack, to uphold, whatever. And wonder, what is that is doing this? Maybe have some insight into thought running to defend oneself as this or that. It can be much more hazy, vague, may not be so crisply verbal. But feeling diseased, upset, disoriented. One isn't in one's normal, respected, settled space. Something has upset or dislocated one's stability. And to watch that with amazement, not with explanation. The explanation has to evolve out of the situation itself, not be supplied just by memory and knowledge of past incidents. Although that can come in helpful if it is clear that it is memory and not the unfolding of this present situation with its urges to right the wrong done to me, to justify oneself, to explain to the other person, no, it isn't so, you're wrong, you've misunderstood me. So in this how shall we call it? I almost said chaos. Let's keep with that word for the time being. This chaos of reaction and reactiveness and counter argument, silent or verbal. Is it possible that somewhere in this, there is some attention, some stability of listening? It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But it isn't. It isn't impossible for there to emerge a spot Sometimes we've called it the eye of the hurricane, in which there is no motion, there is stillness in the eye of the tornado. Sort of finding that quiet spot in the midst of all the turbulence for wondering and observing. Without judgment. What it is that is hurting, that is trying to readjust itself, resettle. Does that have to do with this deep conviction of what I am and want to maintain and want to be in my eyes and the eyes of others? Is that what is revealing itself? If it is possible at such a time to tune in to what the words say, the internal words, the internal monologue or dialogue, it will spread itself out on display very clearly. What is ailing, what is aching, what is troubling, what is suffering, and wants to stabilize itself. Where does this all take place? It really takes real genuine interest in all of this, and an ability to watch which does not come easy. Because of the flooding of the body with chemicals at the time of anger or hurt. Where in this flood is there a little island of just listening and watching? And yet, amazingly enough, it does happen. Maybe over time, maybe over a long time, or very suddenly, out of time. This ability, if you will, the word is not perfect, to see that this is all happening in thought, in a network, not just a line of thinking, not just a train of thoughts, a network of thinking, emoting, remembering, wanting, fearing, all the imagery of oneself and the others, all sort of blinking and firing in this network. We've called the network of meanness. Minus, meanness. Now, it's not said pejoratively. Don't imagine that I'm saying it critically, so one will disown it or get rid of it. There's only one function here in this work, and it's to make things clear. Just before retreat, I responded to a letter. An old friend had written how he's doing pretty well, family's quite well, business going very well, and he's been doing pretty good. But yet every once in a while there's this sort of an onrush of anxiety about one's inadequacy, maybe having done wrong, and how one looks to the world. And then he ended up with the words, I would like to be a lamp unto myself, not get rid of this anxiety and be a lamp unto myself. And what came in the response was, a lamp does not get rid of things, a lamp illuminates. what's there. So what's important is that a lamp lights up, throws light. Whatever it may be, a state of anxiety over having done wrong in the eyes of others or the eyes of one's own so-called conscience. Whatever that is, one can look at it, question it. Isn't it what I have been told to believe is the right way? Through everybody who had a hand in shaping this body-mind. So the important thing, not to get rid of one's bothersome mind states, the bondage of them, but to shed light on them. And how is this to be done? This is not the proper question. The light is there. It can reveal itself all on its own. Because no matter who it is that tells about the problems, the hurts, the difficulties, how can you talk about it? How can you relate it, report it, without there having been some awareness that this is happening? But we're so accustomed to jump on what it is that is illuminated and find fault with it, want to be rid of it, get angry over it, and spin thoughts about it that mobilize all the emotions, rather than amazement that something has come to light. Something is revealing itself. In the presence of attention. Gewahrsein is the German word. It's a beautiful word because the word wahr is in there. That being what is true is Gewahrsein. Because the habitual tendency of thought to draw conclusions about oneself, about the others, and then stick with these conclusions and continue with another chapter of the story of my life always draws away from just watching. Not compulsively, I have to watch, I must watch. It happens so effortlessly when the compulsion is seen through as obstacle. Allow to happen what is happening. Without judgment, and awareness is there. Not all the time. Or doesn't seem to be there all the time. Because the windows are so clouded, so dark, with all of our preconceptions about what we are, what we should be, and of course what they are and should be and are not. So is it our existing, living, spending so much time in this thought-created web of memories and ideas and imagery and identifications that makes it feel as though we're separate from the trees and the stars and the airplanes in between? So this deep conviction that I am me, with all that goes with it, can one question that? Can one question the truth of it? Can start intellectually, because there's a lot of intellectual investment in what I am. Can one start to question it? One's separateness, the reality of one's identifications. And then, in this mode of questioning, listen. Without knowing what we are, this moment, without knowing what I am, what am I? What is there? We will end here for today.